state simulation, people with those kind of ideals working together to find consensus for the betterment of our country.
People rise above the everyday and start thinking about what can they do to really make a contribution to the future of our country.
These are folks who understand what's at stake in the country. They understand their role as state legislators in that.
We cannot just pretend it'll fix itself. We cannot assume foolishly that somebody else will take care of this. This is our time.
The Article 5 Convention Simulation. It was a historic event held over a 3-day period, August 2nd through August 4th of 2023. One of the most important events in the history of the Article 5 Convention movement, and perhaps the history of the United States of America. 49 states gathered for the purpose of conducting a test run of a constitutional process that would fight back against D.C. tyranny.
The Founding Fathers gave the states this process to use as a check and balance. One of the most significant checks and balances in our federal system is this one.
The abuses by the federal government have awakened many people to political threats. The most important responsibility of state legislators now in America is to protect us from the profligacy and also the just imperious behavior of the federal government.
We have parental authority that the founders gave to the state legislatures to supervise the child, that is the federal government, and say you can't abuse your power. And when we go for, we'll round it up, 250 years and never check their authority, never say to them, you can't do that, well, they're a mess. And so, when's the time to start being a good parent? Now.
I think this is needed more than ever, and I'm excited that the American people are going to get a glimpse of what it looks like, how it works, and how it can really resolve the major dysfunction we see in the country today.
Where we can do a practice run, a dry run, familiarize ourselves with the process.
That shows the states are willing to come together and make the effort to reunite the United States.
Over 100 commissioners arrived in Williamsburg, Virginia on August 2nd for the start of the simulated Article 5 convention, which ran through Friday.
Self-government started in the New World here in colonial Williamsburg in 1623 and 1624. The first legislature started here in a log cabin in Williamsburg, Virginia.
The ideas upon which this country was founded were debated and discussed here in pubs and coffee houses. So when you come to this place, you can't help but feel it. So we could go almost anywhere in the country to do this. It's not the most convenient place, but when you walk the streets of colonial Williamsburg and you know that you're walking in the footsteps of the founders and the framers of the Constitution, it sets a very special air for an event like this.
Being in colonial Williamsburg did have a great impact on me. I'm a history buff anyway.
I mean, you couldn't have chose a better setting. It made you feel like you were part of an historic event, which it is.
The significance of being here, and when we had the procession with the fife and drum, it throws you back in time in your mind, and it was a great experience.
On Thursday morning, Louisiana's Woody Jenkins and Senator Jason Rapert of Arkansas were elected president and vice president, respectively.
Everything that's been passed heretofore, amending the Constitution, has had to be approved by the Congress. And there's very few changes that have been made. But what if Congress is the problem? What if it's impossible to make the changes you need? Because remember, you need 2/3 vote of both houses. So what the founders did in Article 5, they set forth another procedure, and that is, if Congress is the problem, how can the people, acting through the state legislatures and a convention, how can they correct the problems that Congress is causing? And that's what we're really talking about at this convention. That's why it's so important.
Some people will say, well, we shouldn't do it in such a divided time. I say this is how you heal the division. One of the reasons that we're so divided as a country right now is because Washington, D.C. does so much stuff. And if D.C.'s doing it, we know as a divided country, half the country is going to be angry. If Democrats are in power, Republicans are going to be angry, and vice versa. So by holding a convention of states, the idea is draw the power away from Washington, D.C., return it to the people in the states then decide most issues for themselves. And when that happens, we'll get along a lot better because we don't have to fight about what's going on in Washington, D.C.
You poll the nation, you see how important it is and how much agreement. It doesn't matter if you're Democrat or Independent or Republican, you know there's a problem.
So the states are really the last check on federal power, and if we don't exercise that power, I don't believe that Congress will change. They are undisciplined and they will not discipline themselves.
The body then dismissed to 3 committees, one for each of the following subject matters: term limits and judicial jurisdiction, fiscal restraints, as well as executive and legislative jurisdiction. These committees considered hundreds of submitted proposals.
So even though I'm sure they're going to talk about and debate a lot of different ideas in each of those committees, they're going to have to narrow it down to the 3 that the committee deems most important. The question is, what exactly will those proposals look like? What will the details be?
Well, we were on term limits. I was on term limits, and it was a lot of open discussion, a lot of great ideas and amendments and things like that. And it seemed that, people piggybacked on the good ideas and brought them forward.
Agencies that we were talking about before, promulgating rules that the states and the Congress never have a vote on, that would go away as far as them sending down edicts to the state.
I really enjoyed the committee process. I served on the Fiscal Restraints Committee and was part of the subcommittee that put together the resolution for the balanced budget.
The committee work was very, very effective. That we really came in prepared to come to the floor with a proposal that was pretty well in shape.
Al Torres, the winner of last year's COS Voices contest, was on hand to witness this historic event as a representative for the Citizen Grassroots Army.
It's just an honor and a privilege and humbling to actually be here. The patriotism behind each and every person who's working here to accomplish what we're trying to do, which is save this nation, is just magnificent to know that I've been blessed to run across with some of the people that I have.
We see Washington, D.C. on television all the time. We see some of the worst behavior in the country there. But if you go into the state legislatures, you meet people who are doing politics for the right reason. They're engaged because they believe in public service. Maybe their family has a long history of public service. They love their communities. They love their states. So they're doing it for the right reason.
I feel like it would be legislative malpractice if I did not take every tool at my means, at my disposal, every tool constitutionally, peacefully, that I can utilize. If I didn't join and be a part of this, I think I would have to apologize to my constituents. And most importantly for me, truly, I'd have to apologize to my family for not doing everything I could given this opportunity at this moment, at this time.
If it wasn't for the grassroots, I wouldn't be sitting here in this chair, because it was a constituent, a grassroots supporter of Convention of the States that came to me at a meeting, and where they were meeting legislators, asked me if I'd sit down with him for tea, which I did, and he just asked if I would look over a couple of pamphlets that he gave me on Convention of the States, which I looked at, and from there went down the rabbit hole, and as a fiscal conservative, had that epiphany that said, this is the solution.
I think they realize the potential that this has, that they can in fact come together and do something, and there's a real commitment to do that.
I don't know of any other organization that has the insight to what ails America than COS.
Friday's plenary session was live streamed to the world with Rita Peters, Michael Ferris, Mark Meckler, and Senator Rick Santorum providing expert commentary. Commissioners engaged in lively debate regarding the proposals as presented by the committees. They made points of order.
Yes, sir. Come to the front if you would. Under Mason's manual, I challenge the chair on that ruling and ask for a vote on the floor.
Amendments.
Be the proposal that you have on the screen with the additional sentence at the end. This article shall not apply to military officers or enlisted personnel.
And roll call votes.
The Secretary will call the roll.
Alaska.
Aye.
Arizona.
Aye. It was very interesting, very exciting. This discussion was fabulous, absolutely fabulous, and the debates were just amazing.
We do have the opportunity to unleash economic, environmental, and constitutional renaissance in the United States by passing this.
The wisdom of the entire group really showed as we passed the different amendments in the resolution. It really also reinforced the viability of this, because we do this as legislators.
No one seems to be overwhelmed by anything. This is not like, oh, what do we do? How does this work? I mean, no, they feel very comfortable. I mean, I'm talking to members, yeah, that's what we do all the time. Yeah, we know the rules, yeah, they're like the rules that we deal with all the time. How else would you do it?
It's been there all along since the very beginning in 1787. This is not a new doctrine. It's not something that is just pulling out of a hat. This is something that has been well acquainted in our history as a nation of states calling themselves into convention to solve problems.
My favorite moment would be when we did get to passage of any particular proposal. It's always a good feeling, those that come out of your committee. In our case, had 3 proposals, all 3 passed.
People got up, they made reasonable proposals and amendments and stuff like that, and it really, it was thoughtful.
In the end, 6 amendment proposals were successfully adopted: a congressional term limits amendment, an amendment limiting the Supreme Court to 9 justices and allowing the states to bring suit against federal actions, a balanced budget amendment, an amendment restoring the Commerce Clause, an amendment allowing for a majority of states to overturn acts of Congress and the executive branch, and finally, an amendment that would cede most federally controlled land back to the states.
After convention's over, if this were the real thing, then what would happen is the commissioners would go back to their states. Whatever was proposed would go to Congress, and then Congress would send it out for ratification to the states, whatever the proposed amendments were. And then there would be debates at the state level, usually in the state legislatures, both houses debating which, if any, of the proposals they want to ratify. Now, of course, this is just a simulated convention, so there's no ratification process that will take place. But what we hope is that the legislators that were here, the citizens that were here, will go back to their states and they'll spread the education and the excitement that we've created here about the Article 5 process.
I talked to folks that were here to see, does this work? And I think that helped them today and yesterday to see those processes are just the same kind of processes you go through in your legislatures, Congress, etc. They're no different.
They can see that, hey, this can be done normal, in order, by the rules, and we can provide real, lasting change and benefit to our nation as a result.
And that confidence, I think, is something that I can take back to my state as we've looked at this over a number of years and try to instill within them that same confidence in the process, that it can work, that it does work.
The only part of a simulated convention that you can't simulate is the amount of time that people will spend on this and the wisdom that over time, as you massage issues and you spend time on them and you work them, that you begin to see this block of marble turn into the to the pietà, right? But that doesn't happen in 2 days.
Our founders truly were brilliant. It was evident in what we experienced here. It just gave me a very great sense of peace.
The simulation proved that the process works, that it can be done, just as the American framers envisioned. Moreover, it paints a vision for citizens and legislators alike. They can use Article 5 to reclaim liberty in America and unleash a constitutional awakening.
It can be focused, it can be well run, it can be thoughtful, and people can debate and debate respectfully, and that you can have a final product at the end.
I guess a credo that I strive to achieve, to be a statesman, not a politician, not an elected official. And I think we have those, and that's also what is reflected in this Convention of States simulation. People with those kind of ideals working together to find consensus for the betterment of our country.
People rise above the everyday and start thinking about what can they do to really make a contribution to the future of our country.
These are folks who understand what's at stake in the country. They understand their role as state legislators in that.
We cannot just pretend it'll fix itself. We cannot assume foolishly that somebody else will take care of this. This is our time.
As I consider this the most important work that we can be doing in the United States, where we can actually do something about the runaway spending in Congress, the jurisdictional issues in Congress, and unbreak the logjam that is in Congress that's destroying our nation.
This work that we did here today really will lay that foundation so we can come prepared to a convention and go to work and we can pass things.
I think once you get involved and you start seeing the processes and the people involved, it becomes a no-brainer. It becomes that thing of, yeah, that's what this was for.
We are simply using the Constitution to save the Republic.
I believe that this whole process, including what we're doing here in Williamsburg, gives people hope that there is a solution to the massive problems that we're facing. If you only talk about the problems and don't have a solution, shame on you. This is a solution, as we've said for years, this is a solution that is as big as the problem.